Hello.
You can always see different stories on the streets of a big city, passing by buildings and crowds of people. Everyone focuses on their own business, but sometimes there are moments when something catches your eye and makes you stop. That's exactly what happened to Keanu Reeves on that cool autumn day. He loved walking around the city, especially when he could remain unnoticed by ordinary people. His simple black jacket and hat disguised him well from passersby. These walks allowed him to relax and think about life, himself, and how the world could be a better place. He always appreciated moments of silence when he could observe people, their small joys and struggles. That day, he was walking through the city's central square when an unusual corner caught his eye. On the sidewalk, among dozens of passersby, there was a small, impromptu exhibition. Paintings made on ordinary paper and even on pieces of cardboard were laid out next to the artist, who was sitting on an old stool. His age was difficult to determine because of his tired face, wrinkles, and thick beard that covered half of his face. But there was something in his eyes that immediately captured Keanu's attention: passion and quiet determination. The artist's paintings were extraordinary. They radiated emotions that could not be ignored. Bright colors were mixed with dark shades, creating deep scenes that told stories. One painting depicted a man reaching out to the light, as if trying to get out of the darkness. Another depicted a nighttime city, where the light of the lanterns transformed shadows into intricate patterns. Each work was full of symbolism and emotion. Keanu stopped to get a better look at the works. He could not pass by. The paintings not only impressed him, but also touched him, reminding him of his own life trials. The loss of loved ones, loneliness, and the search for meaning were all reflected in the works of this stranger. People walked by, only occasionally glancing at the paintings, but Keanu remained standing as if mesmerized. The artist noticed his interest but did not say a word. He simply continued to work on a new drawing, using a piece of charcoal and a scrap of paper. His hands moved confidently but slowly, as if each line was filled with meaning. Keanu felt that this man was not just drawing, but conveying something deep and personal. Keanu watched in silence for a few minutes, and then his eyes rested on an old box standing next to the artist. There were a few coins in it, all that people left behind when they appreciated the work. Keanu thought about it. He knew how hard it was sometimes to fight for survival, and he felt that this man deserved more. He began to look at each painting more closely. A question arose in his mind. Who is this artist? What brought him here, to the street? How did a person with such talent end up in this situation? Keanu realized that these questions would not leave him alone if he just kept walking. Staying near the makeshift gallery, Keanu recalled his own difficult times. When he was just starting out, life was no less difficult and full of challenges. In those moments, he always found solace in art, in books, music, and movies. Perhaps that is why this artist and his works touched him so deeply. Passers-by continued to move past, not stopping for long. For them, it was just another normal occurrence in the big city. But for Keanu, it was a special moment. He felt he had to do something more than just throw a few bills in the box. He wanted to give this artist the opportunity to change his life, to restore his faith that his talent could find a place in the world. Not wanting to draw too much attention to himself right away, Keanu decided to think about how best to help. He took a few steps to the side, continuing to watch the artist. The man didn't even seem to notice his departure. He was immersed in his own world, a world that consisted of colors, lines, and images. This moment was the beginning of a story that would change the lives of not only this artist, but many others. Keanu felt that meeting this stranger was no accident. It was a call to action, and he had no intention of ignoring it. After returning home, Keanu couldn't stop thinking about the artist. His works, full of emotion and depth, kept popping up in his memory. Keanu knew that this man had great talent and only needed help to find his way. The next day, he decided to take action. The first step was to find out more about the artist. Keanu returned to the same spot in the square, hoping to see him again. Fortunately, the man was there, sitting at his stool and continuing to paint. This time Keanu came closer and began to look at his new work. He noticed that the artist was completely immersed in the process, hardly paying attention to his surroundings. Keanu, as before, did not want to draw attention to himself, so at first he just watched. He saw how the man used limited resources, cheap paints and paper, but even with these simple materials, he created something extraordinary. Each painting was filled with symbolism and deep meaning. They told stories of pain, hope, and struggle. When the artist finished working on another painting, Keanu decided to get closer. He left the money in the box to avoid attracting attention and took one of the paintings. As the artist watched in silence, Keanu began to ask him about his art and life. The man, though reluctant, began to share. His name was Jacob, and he said that he had once owned a studio and was a successful artist, but had lost everything due to a series of setbacks, the death of a loved one, financial difficulties, and depression. However, he never gave up painting because it was his way of coping with life. Keanu realized that this man deserved a chance. He offered to help him find an opportunity to show his work to people who could appreciate his talent. At first, Jacob was cautious and did not believe in the sincerity of this offer. He was used to the indifference of others and did not expect that someone could sincerely want to help him. However, Keanu did not stop. He left his contact and asked Jacob to think about the offer. He then contacted a few of his friends in art galleries to discuss the possibility of organizing an exhibition. His friends were impressed when they saw the photos of Jacob's paintings that Keanu sent them. They agreed to help. The next step was to set up a studio for Jacob. Keanu rented a small room and provided him with everything he needed: quality materials, light, and a cozy space to work. He knew that this place would help the artist to restore his faith in himself and his art. When Jacob first entered the new studio, he was amazed. He could not believe that someone had done this for him. His eyes filled with tears, but this time they were tears of joy. He realized that all was not lost, and this chance could change his life. Jacob started working on new paintings. Each of them became more and more complex and skillful. He knew that he was preparing for an important moment, an exhibition that could change his fate. Meanwhile, Keanu continued to organize the event, involving more and more people. The work was in full swing, and soon everything was ready for the exhibition. Keanu made sure that everything went flawlessly, but he stayed in the shadows, allowing Jacob to be the center of attention. It was important to him that the artist's talent was in focus, not his participation. The day of the exhibition came. It was a long-awaited moment for both Jacob and Keanu. The gallery that they managed to rent for the event was spacious, with large windows letting in natural light that perfectly accentuated Jacob's work. The paintings created over the past weeks were hung all over the room, each in its own place, as part of one big story. Each work had a short description telling about the inspiration and emotions that went into its creation. Keanu made sure that the event would be a real celebration of art. He took care of everything, from invitations for influential people in the art community to organizing the music. The gallery was filled with light classical music, creating an atmosphere of calm and concentration. A buffet with drinks and snacks was organized in the far corner so that guests could socialize without being distracted from the art. Jacob appeared at the event in a simple but neat suit that Keanu helped him buy. He looked a little nervous, but his eyes shone with hope. He stood at the entrance, greeting the first guests. It was a completely new experience for him. Instead of indifferent stares from passers-by, he saw sincere interest and respect for his work. The first guests who came to the gallery were amazed by Jacob's work. They stopped at each painting, carefully studying the details and discussing the deep symbols embedded in them. Some even took pictures next to the paintings to share their impressions. It was hard for Jacob to get used to this kind of attention, but Keanu reassured him, reminding him that this was just the beginning. Guests kept arriving, and the gallery gradually filled with people. Among them were influential collectors, art critics, and art lovers. One of the collectors, known for his love of contemporary artists, stopped by one of Jacob's largest paintings. It was an image of a broken bridge with the light of dawn breaking through. The painting had a deep symbolic meaning, and its striking detail aroused the man's admiration. He approached Jacob and offered to buy the painting for a substantial sum. It was a shock for Jacob. He couldn't believe that his work had such value. Keanu came up to him, putting his hand on his shoulder, and quietly told him that this was just the beginning of his new life. Jacob thanked the collector and made his first deal, which became a symbol of his rebirth as an artist. Gradually, the exhibition turned into a real success. Many paintings were sold before the event was over. People left their contacts, inquired about Jacob's future works, and expressed their admiration for his talent. Jacob, who could not even imagine such an opportunity a few weeks ago, now felt needed and appreciated. However, what made the biggest impression on Jacob was the fact that his work touched people's hearts. Some guests came up to him to share their emotions. They told him how his paintings reminded them of their own experiences, fears, and hopes. For Jacob, this was more important than money or fame. He felt that through his art he could influence the lives of others. At the end of the evening, when the last guests left the gallery, Jacob and Keanu were alone. The gallery was filled with quiet peace, and the light from the lamps created a warm atmosphere. Jacob thanked Keanu for everything he had done for him. He admitted that if not for this chance meeting, he might have stayed on the streets forever, losing faith in himself and his talent. Keanu, in turn, said that it was just as important to him. He knew he could help a man change his life, and that gave him real satisfaction. He noted that Jacob's story is proof that a second chance can change everything if you find someone who believes in you. This exhibition was the beginning of a new life for Jacob. It brought him not only financial stability, but also restored his faith in himself. He started receiving commissions for paintings, and his name became known in art circles. He rented his own studio and continued to create, putting his heart and soul into each work. Keanu, as always, remained in the shadows. He did not seek fame or recognition for his actions. It was enough for him to know that he helped change someone's life for the better. He continued his walks through the city, observing life and perhaps looking for new stories that would require his involvement. Jacob's story became an inspiration to many. It reminded people of the power of kindness and the importance of support. It showed that even one meeting can change everything if you believe in people and their potential. And for Jacob, it was not just an exhibition. It was a new beginning that gave him a chance for the life he had long dreamed of. The next few months were a time of complete transformation for Jacob. The exhibition not only opened the door to the art world, but also gave him confidence in his abilities. His success, which at first seemed accidental, was the result of his many years of hard work and indomitable spirit. After the exhibition, Jacob began to receive invitations from galleries across the country. His work appeared on the pages of art magazines, and his name quickly became recognizable in the circles of contemporary art lovers. Jacob decided to invest some of the money he earned in setting up his own studio. This place became his creative refuge, where he could work without restrictions and create paintings that told his story. The studio was also open to other artists who found themselves in difficult life situations. Jacob wanted to give a chance to those who, like him, had lost everything but had not lost their talent and faith in art. One of Jacob's main initiatives was to create a program to support young artists. He collaborated with local NGOs to find talented artists who needed support. The program included workshops, exhibitions, and financial assistance for the purchase of materials. For Jacob, it was not only a way to give back to the world, but also a continuation of the journey that Keanu had started. Meanwhile, Keanu continued to follow Jacob's progress, but kept a low profile. He was satisfied with the way the artist's fate turned out and did not consider it necessary to remind him of his involvement. For Keanu, it was a matter of principle to stay in the shadows and allow Jacob to build his own future. However, they kept in touch, exchanging letters from time to time and meeting occasionally at the cafe where it all began. At one of these meetings, Jacob thanked Keanu for seeing him as more than just a homeless artist on the street. Keanu just smiled and said that true talent will always find its way if given the opportunity. This phrase stayed with Jacob and became his life motto. Jacob's work became even more profound and symbolic. He began experimenting with new techniques and styles that reflected his own story of struggle and victory. His paintings no longer just depicted emotions, but also provoked discussion and made people think. They became not only art, but also a voice for those who could not speak about their problems. A few years after the first exhibition, Jacob organized his own big charity event. All the proceeds from the sale of his works went to support programs for homeless artists. The event brought together many guests, including famous collectors, art critics, and other artists. But most importantly, there were people there who, like Jacob, had once lost everything but were given a second chance thanks to his program. Keanu was among the guests, but, as always, he remained invisible to most. He stood in the far corner of the room, watching Jacob tell his story and inspire others. For Keanu, this was the best reward, to see how his small help turned into a wave of kindness that changed the lives of many people. This story has become a symbol of how one random act of kindness can change not only one person, but an entire community. It reminded us that kindness is always powerful, regardless of the circumstances, and that even the smallest gesture can be the beginning of a great story. As the years passed, Jacob's story and his transformation continued to inspire thousands of people. He has become a symbol of how talent and perseverance can change even the most difficult circumstances if someone lends a helping hand. His works appeared at prestigious exhibitions, and his name became known all over the world. However, Jacob's most important achievement was how he used his success to help others. The foundation he founded to support artists expanded to a national scale. It was staffed by volunteers who helped homeless artists find housing, art supplies, and sales opportunities. The foundation also organized exhibitions that became a platform for emerging artists. Thanks to this initiative, dozens of people got a chance to change their lives. Jacob often said that Keanu Reeves was his inspiration and motivator. He publicly thanked him, although Keanu always insisted that the real hero of this story was Jacob himself. "I just opened the door, but you chose to come in," Keanu said at one of their private dinners. This phrase became famous among Jacob's fans, who considered it a great metaphor for those seeking support in life. At one of the big events organized by the foundation, Jacob prepared a special gift for Keanu. It was a painting that symbolized their history together. It depicted light shining through a dark tunnel, with two figures reaching out to each other. The painting was called Second Chance, and became one of Jacob's most famous works. Keanu, as always, stayed in the shadows, thanking Jacob for the gift. For him, this story was a reminder of the importance of simple human gestures. He continued to live his normal life, leaving behind many stories like Jacob's. He was convinced that the most important thing is how you can make a difference in the lives of others, even if that impact seems insignificant. Jacob's last exhibition before his retirement was a triumph. It brought together artists, collectors, and art lovers from all over the world. The exhibition became a symbol of his career, his struggles, and his victories. At the end of the event, Jacob gave a speech in which he thanked Keanu once again and reminded everyone present of the power of kindness. After the exhibition, Jacob dedicated himself to teaching and mentoring. He continued to inspire a new generation of artists, passing on not only technical skills, but also life lessons. He often repeated that everyone deserves a second chance, and that the main thing is to believe in yourself, and that there are people who are ready to support you. Jacob's story became a legend. It was told as an example of how a small act of kindness can turn into a wave of change. It left a mark on people's hearts, reminding them of the power of humanity. And Keanu Reeves, as always, remained a humble spectator of these changes, knowing that his small gesture helped change the lives of not only one person but many others. This story ended not with words, but with actions that continued to influence the world. And although Jacob has retired from active work, his legacy lives on. His paintings, foundations, ideas, all of this was proof that a second chance can be the beginning of something great if you find someone who believes in you.
Goodbye.